Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. We're involved in a shorting. Look at Slasher Royale today. We're from Afterlight Comics, which I've not had enough experience with. I was looking forward to trying more stuff out. And I do like myself some slashers. I had a conversation not long ago, somebody claiming that slasher was the poorest of the subgenres within horror, and we do not talk like that in this house. I love myself a slasher for many reasons, including the fact that they tell you some nice ideas about the socio-political content of the time, the fear of strangers, home invasions, fear of wildness in the woods-based slashers or swamp-based slashers. There's so many things you can do with it. In this particular case, what we have is more of an overarching look at the potential you can do for, it's actually just scariness and violence. And I don't mind that because, let's face it, you don't have to have political meaning behind all your horror. Sometimes you can infer it, or if it's not implied. But you've also got stuff just like Cabin in the Woods, which, yeah, you can say quite a lot about, including its terrible creator. But in this particular case, I do like the fact that because it was involving so many different types of horror in its own way and contextually, you can kind of just have fun with it in its own way. And yeah, I think Slasher Royale is kind of doing the same thing here. It is a fairly simple concept. It's somebody whose parents were killed by a slasher who spent his life trying to track this person down to get vengeance. Not justice, vengeance. That's my emphasis on that one. I think the creators wouldn't mind. Speaking of creators, I don't really know these people that well. Afterlight's not a company I've spent that much time reading their stuff of, but Joseph Oliveira did the writing and lettering, and Dominic Grasho is the artist. Now, I'm going to say something about Joseph Oliveira first, because there is a couple of little criticisms I do have in terms of his writing. First off, early on we have this moment of somebody doing this kind of unnatural thing where they speak a thought out loud when there's nobody to hear them say it. And don't get me wrong, in times of high stress, people can vocalise thoughts without realising. If something jumps out, you go, oh my god, or whatever. But in this particular case, it's just like, oh, that's an interesting thing. And usually you would think that. And I guess in movies and TV shows, it's a little bit harder to pull that off. But this is a comic book. We have thought bubbles. There's an entire comic book convention named after them. You're allowed to have internal dialogue in the same way that noir can do the internal monologue kind of thing. It's possible and really easy within comic books. And also, a little bit later on, this one is just confusing to me because the guy who wrote the script is also the guy who did this lettering. Almost dropped something. And the line here is, and I'm going to read this verbatim, I expect you to give them full run-through of what's expected from each of the B-Wing. Now, most of that makes perfect sense to me, and I can kind of see where some of the mishap kind of went, but like an editor would usually pick this up. But in this case, the guy who wrote the script was the guy who did the lettering, and I just feel like it's an own goal kind of situation, an unforced error, and it just took me out a little bit. Throughout the rest of it, though, the writing is really good. We do have like some very cool noirish kind of vibes. We've got some fantastic pacing, really nice story beats. We have this wonderful moment where we get introduced to an absolute smorgasbord of different types of slasher, including the fear of the adolescence, which is the summer camp slasher, plus a whole bunch of other ones that kind of lay out exactly that this is not going to be just one particular type of fear. And it's done really nicely. It's very tightly controlled. Not many panels given up to it. It feels like you are just being bombarded with information, but that's exactly what's happening in the comic book. It feels very nicely controlling the textual and subtextual information going on there. Really effectively done. And there's also just nice timing moments where we get some brilliant brutality of artwork on like an entire upper half of a page, but it's done so well from the POV that it is kind of shocking, and it's when you turn the page over, it's the first thing you see. It's a really nicely done way of kind of playing around the idea. You can't quite have jump scares in this kind of comic book, but you can play around with the form and still give your readers a sense of it, and the artistry is fantastic as well. It's kind of rough and kind of loose, but I like that style. Like, there's moments where you can see that they have done just nice, bold ink lines for the guttering, for the edges of the panels, and it runs over a little bit, and it's not perfectly done. And I'll criticise major publishers for this, particularly if it's somebody like Rob Liefeld. He should know better, and he has far more money, and getting people to come and like do After Effects digital kind of stuff on it. The mistakes feel raw. They don't feel like it's just can't be arsed changing. It's like, no, I'm putting everything onto the page and I'm going to make it look exactly how I want it to look, and it works. Going back to just the layout kind of stuff, it's not just that, but it is the POV we get that tightens up what's going on and makes it feel that little bit more threatening, including just the conversation between two guys over a table in a diner kind of area. And the non-verbal communication through physicality and expression and stance, all fantastic, all brilliant. Genuinely love this one. It's scratching a lot of my horror slasher kind of vibes, and I really want to get the rest of it. Can't wait to see how it plays out. That's it for me for now, though. Till I'll see you all again. Look after yourself, everyone. Stay safe.